Hello there!
Kinetic type series.
So here we are in After Effects, and the first thing that I'm going to tell you is like you have here in Window, Workspace, different setups so that you can work with the best interface setup for the work in hand. The second thing is renaming your layers. Please rename your layers, giving them names that reflect what they do in the timeline. Select a layer, you hit enter, and you can type in the new name. Now it comes the anchor point or the axis of your layers. You can see here how this layer has the anchor point not in the center. So you can hit A and go through here, through the layer controls. You can also select your layer and hit Y. That's the shortcut to select the anchor point modification tool. So now it is a matter of moving it to the right position. You can also activate the snapping option here. That way After Effects is going to suggest some key points of the layer, for example the center. So now it is time that you pay all your attention to this, because this is the best shortcut ever, and this is the tilde key. That means wherever you are with your cursor, mouse pointer, if you hit the tilde key, bada bing, that specific panel or window is going to go full screen. So this is extremely useful, for example, when you have tons of layers here and you need to scroll up and down, which is not the case now, but imagine that scenario. So to have an overall look at all your layers, you just stop your cursor over the timeline, you hit the tilde key, and boom, it is going to go full screen. You hit it again and you are out. So this is a little bit tricky, because in my Spanish keyboard here is one key and in others is other key in your keyboard. So if you have any doubt about that, you can go here to edit keyboard shortcuts, and the option that you are looking for is the maximize panel. This indicates what specific key is on your keyboard, but remember, this is a real gem. So I'm going to make a very quick animation to show you some other super useful tricks. And I have this layer here, this cube or rectangle that I'm going to animate. And one very cool trick is the shortcut I and O that goes to the end of the selected layer. So that's one thing. Let's open this layer position by hitting P for position. And again, I am going to click on I, and I'm at the beginning of the layer. I create my first keyframe. I go forward like this, and I move it to the left. So one thing that is super useful is the alignment panel here. Okay, if you don't see it, you come here to Window, Align. And I'm going to put it on the left of the composition by hitting this Align Left button. And that's part of the animation. So now I can hit, for example, R to bring in the rotation. I'm going to create a keyframe here, and again I'm going to hit I to go to the beginning, and I'm going to rotate it. And here it comes another super useful shortcut, which is U to open or to show all the keyframes that are contained on any selected layer. Let's close this again, select the layer, click U, and bada bing, bada boom, here you have the keyframes. And after selecting them, just by clicking and dragging, now if I click F9, I'm going to have them is. So that means that they are going to be softer in the way they start and they finish the animation. Here comes another super useful tip, which is like the beginning and the end of the preview area. We can accommodate that by clicking B for the beginning and moving the playhead. I can click N, and if now I click the spacebar, you see that I have the preview area just close to this part of the animation. And last but not least, two more shortcuts that are essential to navigate After Effects. One is the spacebar, which changes the cursor or the mouse point to the hand to move around. And the other is, let's say I have selected the text tool here and I want to move this rectangle here in the preview area. I just hit V and I'm back at the cursor. So this is super important because I tend to operate just by moving things around like this, and you only can do that with the cursor. So if you, for example, let's say you are playing with the pen tool, which is something that we are going to do farther ahead in this tutorial, you can hit V again and you have the cursor ready to mess around with stuff in your preview area. Okay, so talking about the pen tool, the shortcut is G, okay? It is up here, and I'm going to draw something very quickly. This really ugly form or shape, something that I find really annoying. If I click V to select the cursor or selection tool, you know, I've been messing around with other layers. I come here and there is no way of accessing to the actual points of this shape. So if you select the pen tool here and you stop on top of any of these points, you don't need to go again to the selection tool or the cursor, because this is the best way to just edit your shapes. So remember, not cursor, but the actual pen tool to mess around with the individual points that form your shape. Also, if you click and maintain, you can see that there are several different sub pen tools, so to say, but you don't need them, because whenever you stop on top of a line of your shape, for example, you see I have this plus here, and if I click, I'm creating another point. Now when it is a cursor, I can move this point around. Also, if I stop on top of any of these points and hold on Alt or Option on a Mac, you see that the cursor changes to this kind of V symbol, and if I click now, I convert straight corners into rounded ones with Bezier handles, and also vice versa. Like I convert this point that is a Bezier one into a straight corner. So those are my tips for the pen tool. Now this is going to be a very quick one. Let's say that I want my composition to be only of this area here, so I'm going to hit B and N to close the preview area. And this is a tip: you can right click here in this gray area between the two limits, and here you have this option that says trim comp to work area, and that means that now we have a composition of the exact length and just containing that part. I'm going to undo it, and again that was right click here, trim comp to work area, and it is going to trim my composition to that specific area. Talking about cropping, here it comes another great tip for resizing your composition. We are going to come here to the region of interest button. I'm going to click there and I'm going to select the area that I want to crop. Okay, let's say that I want to pre-compose this, for example, or use these compositions, but I want it to be only of this size. So now it is a matter of coming here into composition, and we can hit here in crop comp to region of interest, and yeah, it is going to be cropped to the size that I wanted. I can undo it obviously to bring back the original resolution of my composition. So I opened another project to show you some tricks that are very handy when it comes to more complicated projects or timelines. So one is like you know this situation where you try to preview something, and because it is very heavy for your machine, it is kind of difficult, and it starts like advancing very very slowly. So you need to stop and always give your machine a chance to breathe by lowering the resolution of the preview. Something like this. You try it out, and if it still struggles, you need to go down and start messing around with this, because it is the only way to keep working. Okay, now I'm going to tell you that markers like all these that I have here are your best friend. Okay, so you just come here to the right and you can drag one to the point where you are trying to make a note. You can click twice here and give it a name. You can also, if you have a layer selector and you click on the asterisk, you can create a marker on a specific layer, and you can also edit it. So those are super helpful. You can move them around and stuff, so keep an eye on that. Also, what I tend to do is like I work a lot or use the colors of the layers on my advantage. For example, let's say that these two layers are connected in any way. You can right click on the color of the layer and you can change the color of that. That way, if you look at the timeline, you can see the relationships between different layers. Now, another way to organize your projects, because you know After Effects can get a little bit messy in the amount of different, you know, compositions that you have opened here. So let's say that I'm working on this one and I want to close all the others, because this is even like some of them are hidden on the right here. So if you right click on the one that you want to keep like this, you have this option that says close other timeline panels, and you have only this one opened. Another thing I want to tell you is like any layer can become an adjustment layer. It's just a matter of activating this button here, and in this case, this for example is a shape layer, and the advantage of that is that you can just, let's say you want, I don't know, another shape, and your adjustment layer is going to have that particular shape. If you don't see these buttons or these options here, it's a matter of clicking here on the bottom and they are going to be up there. So now we are in a busy timeline with a lot of layers, and I'm going to tell you about different buttons that are super useful for organizing and working more fluently in After Effects. One of the most useful is the solo button, where you isolate specific layers. You can do it with different layers at the same time. Also, you have the side button, and this is like if you activate the side button here, all these layers, whenever you click here in the main side button control, are going to be visible in your preview panel, but not here in the layer. So I disable this. And the last thing that is super useful is like the lock button, obviously. Like when it comes to protecting some layers, this is mega useful. So take advantage of those. And also, if you don't see them, again, you have here this option on the bottom to make them visible. Now I'm going to tell you a way to work with tracking and kerning that is very convenient. So let's say I want to close the tracking for this particular word. So I can do it here, obviously, in the character controls, but if I had it selected with Alt, holding on Alt or Option on a Mac and the left and right arrows, I can close or open the tracking. Also, if I'm between two particular letters, like here, I can change the kerning between the U and the S just by, again, holding on Alt or Option on a Mac and clicking the left arrow to close or the right arrow to open the kerning. So another thing that I need to tell you as a tip, or something that I think works very well, is in general the search bar, both for the layers. For example, here, if I search for the path for all the layers is going to be opened here. I can even like select one particular layer and search for something specific here. I don't know, it is super useful, even like selecting different layers and going for a particular aspect of it. Also, we have another search bar within the effects and preset panel, and it is just the same. It is a great way of going directly to the things that we are looking for. Now, the last tips. One is, from time to time you need to come here to edit and purge all memory and disk cache. This is very useful whenever your machine or After Effects feels like it's running a little bit slow. Continuing with that, also in File, in Dependencies, this option to collect files. This is the way to collect your files, to share them with another guy or another girl that is working with you and needs the project. So you go here again to File, Dependencies, and collect files. Another thing that is around here in File is the Increment and Save option. I do this a lot of times because it doesn't happen a lot, but your project file can get corrupted, and having different copies of your project file is going to save your life. And the last tips that I'm going to tell you about is creating render templates. Whenever you go here to composition, add to render queue, and you know that there are like different options here. So some of these are, I created them. For example, this ProRes 4444 or some of these. So it is a matter of whenever you know that there's something that you use a lot and you have all set up, you can say here, make template, give it a name, and then bada bing, with just one click, you are going to be able to export with that particular specifications.
Kinetic Type Series.